Good morning, everyone. My name is Craig Ebert. I'm president of the Climate Action Reserve, and on behalf of the Climate Action Reserve and our official government sponsors, the Government of Canada, Semarnat in Mexico, and the state of California, I want to welcome all of you to the 16th Annual North American Carbon World. We are actually in a very interesting point in the entire climate debate, and it's just a great time to get all of us together to talk about what we've accomplished and, frankly, how much more needs to be done. Over the last year, there's been a lot of positive action across North America on climate change. Here in California, we had AB 398 and AB 617 passed last year that, among other things, extends cap and trade through 2030. That was a tough battle, but it was accomplished. So we now have a clear signal of what's required in the coming years. In addition to that, in Canada, there's been a number of developments as well. Ontario has now joined the Western Climate Initiative along with California and Quebec. And there's the Pan-Canadian framework in place across Canada that, among other things, is putting a price on carbon in one way, shape, or form in each and every province and territory in Canada. In Mexico, the National Cap and Trade Bill has passed their assembly and is about to be approved by the Senate and move actually into a national program. We are actually hoping that that's an action that could happen in the next few days. In addition to that, there's a lot of other subnational action. We've got Oregon and Hawaii, among other states, considering a cap and trade program. On the East Coast, we've had the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative in place for quite some time now, and if we can get Virginia and New Jersey to join in on the RGGI initiative, you basically have the fourth largest economy on the planet involved in that cap and trade program. So it's a very interesting times, a lot of very positive developments. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of them was actually COP23 in Bonn last year. For those of you who had the opportunity to be in Bonn, most of us weren't expecting much out of COP23. It was sort of followed on the heels of Paris. There's a lot of administrative work to do to implement Paris. And I can tell you that, frankly, the world is wondering, after the decision by the Trump administration to withdraw from the Paris Agreement, would the U.S. even show up? And if they showed up, what message would they be bringing? I mean, we are actually the only nation on the country that has backed out of the Paris Agreement, the only one. And I can tell you that we had the privilege of hosting 11 states and 4 governors as part of the U.S. subnational delegation. We cooperated with a group that's called the We Are Still In movement and the U.S. Climate Pledge. And the impact we had in Bonn, it's hard to describe, but it was electric. The world, and I spoke to a number of my colleagues from the OECD and the IEA and elsewhere, some who were there, some who were not. And going into Bonn, the question was, what's the U.S. going to do? And what happened is we showed up in force. There was a huge pavilion right outside the negotiating zone, the U.S. Climate Action Center, and it was basically sending the message to the world, we are here, we are still in. This makes a difference. This is a critical fight, and politics is not going to affect our battle in this against climate change. And it really did energize the entire conference for the next for the couple of weeks there. So that's all very positive. A lot to build on here. However, time is not on our side. We've got a long way to go, and frankly, little time in which to do it. And I think it's also important to realize that as good as we arguably can feel about the Paris Agreement, it's only one of many important steps. We have to avoid patting ourselves on the back too much, because even if we succeed in fully implementing the Paris Agreement objectives, it's not enough. So there's much more work to be done. But when I look out at this room, I'm actually inspired, because I think of all of you as basically being the point of the spear in the battle against climate change. And it's not a battle against some unknown foe. It's a battle, by humanity against itself. At the end of the day, the planet Earth doesn't care what humans do. It's going to take care of itself. But, I think a lot of us feel like we like the world we live in, and protecting it is an important objective. So, and at the end of the day, it's also important to realize that the Earth doesn't care what one's politics are, what your geography is, what you do for a living, how much money you make. It'll pick on all of us. So we are doing this battle with ourselves in a lot of ways. But again, I think the good news starts with those of you here in this room. This incredible amount of creativity, incredible amount of innovation, and what we all know is that there are solutions available. This is not a lost cause. What we need to do at this point is recommit ourselves to our mission. And that mission is reducing greenhouse gases, halting and then reversing the dangerous human impacts on our precious global climate system. For all of us in this room, when your children and your grandchildren ask you, what did you do at this critical time? When our beautiful planet was under threat, you should be able to respond, I made a difference. That's our goal here. Let's commit ourselves to it. Thank you for your time. Let's have a fabulous conference.